First, an alleged Coast Guard medical training activity prompted one insider to blow the whistle. That person turned over undercover video to People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
It shows people amputating a goat's legs with tree trimmers. 10 on your side's Melanie Woodrow spoke with PETA and reached out to the Coast Guard for an explanation as well. Melanie?
I did, and right now the Coast Guard is investigating this video, and a spokesperson tells me that they are investigating whether or not it's actually Coast Guardsmen in the video. So a lot of questions tonight. In the video, while those goats are being amputated, at times there are whistles, there are jokes made. PETA is hoping that the video will persuade the Coast Guard to change its alleged training.
The video is so graphic, we've decided not to show most of it. In it, tree trimmers are passed around as several people take turns amputating a goat that, according to PETA, is alive and not properly anesthetized. Dan Matthews is PETA's senior vice president. He says a whistleblower who was at this training gave PETA the video. PETA has investigated claims of animal abuse in military training before.
We exposed ferret experiments for trauma training at Portsmouth Naval Hospital, and they did away with them. The same thing happened at Aberdeen Proving Ground when we exposed some experiments on monkeys. They stopped them. Fort Campbell has started to replace its animal tests. It's a move that's happening in every branch of the military.
In a statement released to 10 on your side, a Coast Guard spokesperson says the Coast Guard is investigating PETA's allegations and that the training prepares Coast Guard personnel to diagnose and treat wounds. In the statement, Lieutenant Commander Jamie Frederick writes, quote, "This training is a requirement for a small number of Coast Guard deployable specialized forces and is a pre-deployment requirement set by the Department of Defense for Coast Guard personnel deploying to combat theaters."
They're always very defensive at first, but then when they realize that there's officials across the country who have dealt with this and have started to update their policies, they become more open-minded.
Matthews shared this DoD policy signed by the then Undersecretary, now Deputy Secretary of Defense, in 2010. It states methods other than animal use and alternatives to animal use should be considered whenever possible. Lieutenant Commander Frederick says that at this time, a total replacement for the animal model does not exist for several combat trauma procedures.
And that same Coast Guard spokesperson also said that personnel involved in this type of training always maintain the highest level of professionalism and follow all approved Department of Defense protocols and applicable federal laws. That's something the Coast Guard and PETA are now investigating. Nicole and Stephanie?
All right, thank you, Melanie. A bill was introduced in the House last year to require the Secretary of Defense to use only human-based methods for training members of the armed forces in the treatment of severe combat injuries. Virginia Representative Jim Moran signed on as a co-sponsor.